Good morning. We're having a few technical difficulties, but I think it's fixed, so I think we can resume. So just bear with us for a minute while we turn you around. All right, Jax. Jax is, sorry, we don't mean to do this with you all here, but you know,
we were so set up, we were all ready, and then the screen just kept blacking out. But now
I think we're good. I think we're good to go. I'm going to just, just going to go down here like that, and I think that's good to go. All right.
Let's do it.
We're here. Hi, everybody. If you don't know us, I am Lisa, and this is Jackie, and we are half of the Monday Morning Cooking Club, actually half. And the other two are off doing something else this morning, so you've got the two of us to make challah with you. So this is something that a lot of people make every Friday. Some people never make it, they always buy it. But the beauty is that once you start and learn how to do it, you will become an amazing challah baker, we promise you. For example, my sister Esther in Melbourne never baked a challah in her life. When we shared this recipe years ago, she started baking, and now she is like city famous for her challahs.
City famous.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love that.
Anyway, so let's start. I'm going to go through every ingredient utensil in a minute, but we've just got to get the yeast frothing and then we'll talk. So let's start with three ingredients that you need first. You need 1 kilo of flour, and this is plain flour, not bread flour, plain flour. We are using actually the Lighthouse brand biscuit, pastry and cake flour, or you can just use any regular brand plain flour. Now you need some sugar, 3/4 cup of sugar, and you need 6 teaspoons of dry active yeast. So this is the yeast you buy at the supermarket. Hopefully you've all got it in front of you. We're going to take our flour first and put it, I should explain. Jax is going to do hers by hand, and I'm going to do mine in the machine. Yay me.
I'm looking for some extra work this morning.
Yeah.
Some extra physical work.
She made the mistake of telling me a few weeks ago that she loves kneading dough, and I went, that's it, have I got a job for you? So put your flour into the bowl. So everybody's putting 1 kilo of flour into the bowl.
A whole lot.
A whole lot. And then we need to make a well in the flour, and a well means like an indentation made with a glass, a jug, whatever. So Jax is going to show you, and you can see here through the glass, you just go in the middle and you just make little circles. So hopefully everybody's got their well going. How's your well? Well? Is your well well?
It's well.
Okay, so I've got a well.
Do you have to go very deep, or it doesn't matter?
Well, I've gone as wide because we're going to put in 2 cups of water, so I guess you need to leave enough space for 2 cups of water in there.
So I'm going to go a bit deeper. Okay.
I just want to say a shout out to Guy. Hi Guy, thanks for watching. Good to see you. Hopefully you'll be making challah this afternoon for your family. Give us the thumbs up. Okay, so into the well we're going to start with the yeast. So you take your yeast. Yes. Again, 6 teaspoons. Or if you've got the yeast in the sachets, the Tandaco brand, which is the most common one in Australia, that is 3 sachets. So take the yeast and put it into the well, just like that. And then we're going to add half of the sugar. And it doesn't have to be properly measured, just, eyeball it, half into there. Because what you're trying to do is activate the yeast, which I'll talk about in a sec. So half the sugar. Oh, I also want to get under.
I want to compare.
And then everybody should have a wooden spoon. It was on the list, so hopefully you've got it. If not, go and grab it now, or a spoon. I don't know why I'm just attached to wooden spoons for this job. Something about it. Okay. And then you're going to take your water. We've got 500 mils, which is 2 metric cups. And we were just debating the water temperature.
Because it says warm water, I want to know warm on the cooler side, or warm on the hotter side, or medium warm.
I think warm on the cooler side. I think it's tepid, like a baby's bottle warm. I think that you can't go wrong if the water's a bit cool, but if it's too hot, you're going to kill the yeast.
It's definitely warm. No, it's not. There's no coolness in it. It's warm.
It's warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
What they say, someone told us once you do half boiling water and half tap water, but I think that's too hot. Yeah. I would probably go 1/4 boiling, 3/4 tap. Anyway,
that sounds right.
We're going to pour the water into the well.
How much? Remind me.
All of it.
All of it.
So you can see, I wonder how
my well's
show.
filling up.
It's hard to show the well, but Yeah, you can see. Can you see Jack's as well? And you can see in there.
Don't want to go out of my well.
Yeah, I can see that well. So then you take your wooden spoon and just give everything in the well a little stir. You're not going out of the well. You're keeping the water in. I mean, if a bit slips out, it doesn't matter. So you just want to mix it a little bit.
You're just stirring the walls of the well.
Exactly. It's a very good way to describe it. You can feel the base of the well and you can feel the walls. So that's stirred. You can just leave that
You're
aside.
really just trying to activate the yeast, right?
So we need to give that 5 minutes. So I'm going to put the timer on just so you can see.
So my well is still in place and the flour is still all around the edge. You did not mix all the flour in. The water is still in the middle.
Yeah, you can see that. Okay, so let's just go through everything that we've got ready for this morning because we just wanted to rush and get that on, and then we'll talk about yeast. So for this challah, this makes 2 big challahs and we're doing 2 each. You need your 1 kilo of flour, your 6 teaspoons of yeast, which is in there already, 3/4 cup of sugar. We use caster sugar for all our baking because we find it dissolves quicker and easier. But if you've just got white sugar, that's also fine. We've put half of that in there. We've got 1/2 cup of oil. And this is any oil that's not olive, pretty much.
What's your best? What's your best?
My best is grapeseed. What's yours?
Yeah, I like grapeseed too.
So we're big grapeseed fans, but of course it changes with the times and the press that different oils get. But you know, if you've got any other oil, vegetable, sunflower, safflower, canola, if they're your oils, just use that. 1/2 cup, 2 eggs. We always use large eggs, which is unsurprising in the Monday Morning Cooking Club kitchen. And 1.5 tablespoons of salt. I know it seems like a lot of salt and sugar, but it's what makes challah fantastic is that it is sweet, just salty and egg enriched, and it makes it a beautiful loaf.
What sort of salt have you used?
Okay, it's a good question because I'm using a salt at the moment called from Olsen, which is made, it's absolutely beautiful salt from Australia, but I find it very salty, so I'm only using a tablespoon in this recipe. If you were using supermarket Saxa, I would use 1.5 tablespoons. I think that's the right amount.
And are we using a sea salt or a table salt?
No, this is just a table salt.
Right.
Yeah. A fine grained table salt, which is what we're using.
Right.
I think that's all the ingredients we've got. So you need your big bowl, which hopefully your yeast and your flour is in. You will need a wooden spoon because we're going to need that in a minute. Grab your jug that you had your water in because we're going to use that in a sec. You'll need a fork for beating the eggs in a minute. And one more thing which I've got to jump and get.
A glass of water for the chef?
No.
It wasn't that.
No,
it wasn't a glass of water.
I've actually lost it, so I can't use the one I wanted. So
what were you looking for?
This, my nice one of that.
Yes.
I'll go and have a look in a sec.
Your nice one of that.
Yeah.
That is
a dough scraper, and it is an indispensable tool in the kitchen. You'll see why in a minute.
It's it's a bit flexy, so it can scoop things off the bench.
Yeah, it's really good. So I just want to say a shout out to Sheila. Hi Sheila, how are you? Good to see you here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so let's talk about yeast. The timer is, we've been yeasting for 3 minutes now. So this is the story with yeast. Back in the day when we always used fresh yeast in baking, you always activated it first. It needs to be activated and then used. But when they developed this very good, reliable, active dried yeast, there's actually no need to do anything before you cook with it. You can actually chuck it in and cook with it and it will work. But we find that often if it's been in the pantry too long, if it was in the shop too long, it was in, your kitchen was too hot, whatever it is, the yeast has passed its best by date or activity. It's good to check before you start that it is working. So this is all this step is doing.
And that the yeast is not out of date, because sometimes it sits in your cupboard for a while.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Do check the use by date. It's important. And you can do this, some people do this in a separate bowl. Like you can take a bowl like this and put a bit of the flour and half the sugar, all the yeast and your water, and do it in a separate bowl. That way, if your yeast doesn't work, we debate this, and lucky Natanya's not here today because she would say always do it in a separate bowl. I am one for less washing up, so I would like to do it in the bowl and make a well and hope that the yeast is going to be fine, because 99 times out of 100 it is. The other thing that you've got to be careful of, back to the water, is to make sure that your water's not too hot. Because if you put boiling water onto that yeast, you're not going to see any bubbles. There's going to be no frothing there. You're going to just, gone.
Yeast gone.
Yeast gone. So that's pretty much the yeast story.
Is yours bubbling?
Mine is. Is yours? Yeah.
Mine's not as much as yours.
Yeah. No, yours is
bubble envy.
Yours is more frothy. Like, it gets quite thick and frothy. And I'll have to show you in a minute. I'll come closer with it. I just want to say hello. God, my eyes aren't good. Can you see that thumb? Yeah, hi. Geraldine. Yeah, hey, hi. And Jodie and Samantha are watching. Samantha. Good to have you here. Okay, so that's been 5 minutes. So hopefully everybody's following where we're up to. I just want to revise again, just to say we've got 1 kilo of flour in the bowl. That's the whole amount of flour for the recipe. We've made a well in it, and inside we've put 6 teaspoons of dry yeast, half of the sugar, which is half of 3/4 of a cup that we'd already measured, and 2 metric cups of water, warm water.
Got to be warm.
Got to be warm.
Medium warm.
On the cooler side of warm and the hotter side of warm.
Well.
And we've stirred it and we've let it sit for 5 minutes, and it's now bubbling and frothing beautifully. And it's interesting that we're standing next to each other. We've got the same ingredients. We're in the same place, and ours looks slightly different. So
Lisa's got like bubbles covering the whole top of hers.
You're
going
gonna
to end up with it out your well.
I know.
You're going to be in trouble. Mine is more frothy, less bubble. I don't know if you can see that.
Hi, Trish from Townsville. Oh, yay. Thanks for watching. Townsville.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you. So good to have you here. Okay, so let's do step 2. So that's step 1. The yeast is frothed. We're happy with it. Now we're going to put in the rest of the sugar. So you see why it doesn't matter that you didn't put in exactly half, because it's all going to go in together. So sugar in the well, and we're still working in the well here. And then your salt in the well. And then you need your trusty wooden spoon again, and you're going to give it another stir.
So I'm not disturbing the walls of the well.
No, we're not. The well has to remain the well. And if you can keep all the liquid in the well, it's better, but it's not essential.
Mine has escaped out the side.
That's because you tipped it to show them. Okay, so we're going to leave that for a couple of minutes. It's just going to re-froth again. There's probably not even a need to do that, but now we're going to get the next step ready.
So that's stirred. I'm just doing it very gently because I don't want to disturb my walls.
Okay, so then grab your jug that you have the water in. It's a good use for it. And we are going to crack the eggs into the jug. So we're going to do them into a glass first to just make sure they're not, I think I told the story. I know we told it last time about the eggs.
Tell again.
And Jessie.
Tell again.
So I think it was on the last honey cake when my daughter Jessie was with us. We were talking about cracking the eggs into the bowl. She made a shakshuka, a huge one, beautiful tomato sauce on the stove. She had all her friends at the table, and she'd cracked all the eggs directly into the shakshuka. And the last egg was off and stunk the whole thing out, and she had to toss everything. So it's a good lesson.
It's a lesson.
Yeah.
It's a rookie error.
Yeah. So we're cracking the eggs one at a time and then putting it in the jug. And you can do it straight into the well if you want, but I just prefer to do it this way for whatever reason. What do you think?
I think, yes, you could. Why are we putting it in there?
Second egg.
Yeah.
Well, this is why. So now we're going to take this and the fork and just give it a beat.
No, that's fair enough. So you want to beat it well.
Because it's sort of harder to beat it once. You don't want to put it in the flour and mix it around, then you're going to have bits of yolk and it won't be good.
No, this is a better idea.
Fork a good thing.
Yeah, I give you the extra jug to wash up.
Okay. Then we're going to add the oil to that. I mean, you don't even need to do this, but this is just the way I do it.
All the oil.
And then all of that goes in there.
Do we have to mix that first?
I don't think so. It doesn't matter. So we're going to pour that. That's the can if
mixing
you want. The egg. So we're putting the 2 eggs and the half a cup of oil. Remember, that's any oil except olive into the well.
And it didn't really mix, so there wasn't much point in mixing it.
This is another debate we have in the kitchen. I don't know which camp you're in, but I'm of the camp that I like to now go back into the well and stir the walls and actually bring the walls in one circle at a time. You're bringing the flour.
I'm glad we're bringing the walls in because my walls have
collapse.
Collapse.
I think Natanya says the way she makes it is she just puts it in the mixer with the dough hook straight away and doesn't do this. But I sort of like to make sure that it is fully mixed before I get the dough hook out.
So we're just bringing in the wall a little bit at a time.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be slowly because it can be, you know, you're not going to really muck it up if you do it faster. So everybody should be stirring. You should have a thing that looks a bit like porridge at the moment. Stirring. Smells delicious. What does your smell like? Yeah, yeast.
It's got the yeasty smell.
Oh, it's just divine. Really nice.
And I was always afraid of yeast, so I never cooked with yeast until probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When I learnt here how to do it, and now I'm not afraid of it anymore.
It's good. It's really fun, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite forgiving. Even though there's a method, it's quite forgiving.
I'm just going to bring this down to my bench level.
So now we've got quite the mixture happening.
So you can see in the glass bowl quite well what it looks like.
Yeah, I've got the glass bowl.
And it's already, I can see that it's a beautiful dough. It's just got a little bounce to it already. Okay, we're going to talk about where this recipe comes from while we are busy kneading, because we're going to be kneading for 10 minutes and we'll have to tell you something. So we're going to talk about the history of this recipe. Okay, so
it becomes nice and firm.
So you're trying to get all the dry flour incorporated into the mix. If you're going to do it in the mix master, if you're going to do it in the stand mixer, this is probably good enough. If you're going to do it onto the bench, you probably want to just do it another few rounds. So I'm just going to get this done first while Jax does that.
It's a heavy.
I'm just going to go find my other one of these. Sorry.
It's okay. Lisa's isn't combined yet either. Just mixing as well as I can. It's quite a heavy mixture, so don't be afraid to reach right through to the bottom and get all the flour off the bottom and off the sides.
I just lost it. So
what have you lost?
Yeah, that pastry.
Oh, the pastry. We can share.
Anyway, can't find it.
And you think you're just done, and then there's another bit of flour just around the edge at the bottom. So just really check well that it's all incorporated.
Okay, so we're going to have to use this one. It's not as good though. It's under here. Anyway, so let me show you. So now this is also great to get this off the spoon. I'm taking all the dough off the spoon because you want to get every last bit. If you're a taster as you cook, are you? Are you a taster?
No,
I am.
Hope for the best.
I just love to taste. Like I would, if I wasn't doing Facebook Live, I would definitely, no, I'm not going to. I would definitely be doing it. Okay, so we're going to put it in the machine and we are using the dough hook. This is what you use for kneading. Anytime you make dough with yeast, this is what you use.
And what's the other one called? Because there can be confusion often as to which hook to use.
Okay, this is called the paddle beater, but it used to be called the K beater when everyone had a Kenwood because it was like in a K.
Okay. Now they've made sure it's not a K.
So that's a paddle beater, and of course the whisk. Dough hook.
The dough hook.
It's like a hook.
Captain hook.
It's like exactly like that. So I'm going to put that on and I'm going to start this. And you'll just have to bear with the machine for a minute. I'm going to just do it just to show you. I want to show you how it goes. So put your dough in the machine if you're doing it by machine and just follow along what I'm doing. It's still quite dry. You want it on a low speed to start. Because if you do it fast straight away, you'll have flour everywhere. So now I'm going to increase the speed a bit. Okay, and it's coming together. All the bits of flour that I didn't get in the bottom are just being sucked into the dough.
That looks very easy.
Okay, so
this is where you come to choose how you want to.
Okay, so I'm just going to show you this now. If I can, you can see it is quite sticky. You couldn't possibly have your hands in that. It's a very sticky dough, but that's the beauty of doing it in the stand mixer as opposed to by hand. And I'll talk more about in a minute. I'm just going to put this over in another stand mixer that hopefully will be quieter, and Jax can start flouring her bench and starting to get that ready.
So I've just put aside a little bowl of flour and I just sprinkle it onto the bench. All that flour is going to be incorporated into the challah anyway. So it doesn't matter how much you do. You can sprinkle a little or a lot. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you're not going to end up with all the mixture on the bench top after you finish. Lisa, are you happy with that flour amount?
Yep. You'll probably need more, I mean.
I'm sure.
Can you hear that?
It's quite noisy. Ah, that's better.
Okay.
So now.
So I've just licked my fingers.
Oh.
The dough is delicious.
Okay.
So I'll put the mixer in the cupboard so that you can't hear it. But the general rule is if a recipe says to knead something by hand for 10 minutes, do the mixer for 5 or 6. You don't need more than that. So I've put it on for 5 and we'll have a look at it. The beauty of the mixer, as I said, is that you don't need extra flour because the more flour you add in at this stage, I think you can start, let's start kneading. The more flour you add at this stage, the tougher, unfortunately, your challah will be. And
do you
know, so try not to add a lot, as tempting as it is in the beginning. Yeah, let me just get rid of
you need clean wrists because you kind of
so yeah, and it's nice to do. That's right. Jax has got a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful style of kneading, and I'm just going to let her go for it for 5 minutes, and then we'll see what it's like.
Have you
but
got
you
the
don't
timer
really
on?
need to add too much, do you?
Have you got the timer?
No. Well, I've got the timer on for the beater, so we'll see how we go. You don't need to add too much flour at all. I don't want you to add unless it's really sticky. It's better not to add. So a little bit of
this part of your hand, the butt of your hand, of your. You know that part of your wrist there.
And what rhythm is it? Can you think of a song that's a good rhythm?
Love you, yeah.
Is that because you love me?
Yeah. I don't think didn't we make up a kneading?
We did.
Something that had the word knead in it.
Any ideas for kneading songs? Anyway, so we're trying not to add a huge amount of flour. The aim is to not just add enough so it doesn't stick to the bench in your hands. So while she's kneading, I'll tell you a little bit about the challah. So this challah recipe was given to us. I should go back a step. Challah is the traditional bread that Jewish people eat on Shabbat or the Sabbath. So people eat it on Friday night, mostly, and most people buy it because it's very easy to buy in most places. I'm talking about big cities, of course. I'm
just going to do it in slow motion. So you're getting it and you're pushing it down with the butt, so it's stretching it. And then with that same hand, see it's sticking, you're bringing it back across. So you're pushing it down and then bringing it back.
It's quite a workout for your arms, isn't it?
It's very good.
Yeah, it's very good.
I think my trainer would be happy.
I think to get your arms in shape for summer, if you made challah, you know, every week till summer, you're there. Okay, so back to the challah story. So this, and the bread is traditionally egg enriched, sweet and a bit salty, and it's platted. Braided. You can do a 3, a 6. You'll see later what we do. We were given the recipe by Rebbitzin Honeywolf, who is the Rebbitzin of the Central Synagogue in Sydney, in Bondi. And she got the recipe from her mother-in-law, the rabbi's mother, and that's been in their family for generations and generations. And she was kind enough to share it with us, and we are so thrilled to have it. I think the highlight of the Monday Morning Cooking Club journey, or one of, was when there was the Shabbat project, which was a time when, it was the first Shabbat project, when they planned that everyone across the world who was participating would spend a weekend following the traditions of Shabbat, the Sabbath, and all these special events were on. And on the Thursday night before the Sydney one, the committee, who are amazing, organised a challah bake where we were the chief challah bakers. 2,500, that's right, 2,500 people. Mostly women, I have to say.
There were some men.
In a huge warehouse. It was phenomenal. It was actually amazing. And everybody was kneading. We played a Jewish song that we thought of at the time that really went nicely with kneading. And everybody you can imagine was kneading to the music together. It was something else.
And at one point, we asked them to show their wooden spoons, and everyone put up their wooden spoons. There was 2,500 wooden spoons in the air. It was fabulous. And everyone was swaying to the music as they kneaded. It really was very special.
Your kneading is very good.
But this weekend is also the
Shabbat that's right. This weekend is also.
So it's appropriate.
So you can see that Jax is adding just a little sprinkle of flour from time to time. The one in the machine you will want to add flour. You just will, because you'll say it's too sticky, but just don't. Really don't.
So don't add any to the one in the machine?
No.
Must change the consistency.
It does. It does.
slightly.
We'll compare them when we eat them, I think, and we'll see. I'll report back on Facebook of the difference between the two. But Jax has hardly added any flour at all. So how are we going for timing? Okay, so those of you who are following along, if you're doing the bench kneading, you're probably getting sore arms by now. How are your arms feeling?
No, I'm all good.
Oh, she's good. So you should be kneading like that, or it should be in the machine. So either way, you're kneading. I would do 5 or 6 minutes in the machine and 10 minutes. So that's 5 minutes in the machine. I'm going to put another 5 here for Jax.
See how it just starts to stick a bit? And then you just sprinkle a tiny bit more just to take that off. And then it starts just moving again. So just keep using the butt of your hand and stretching and moving
And
it
I want
around.
to show you the one here from the machine. Look at it. Completely different. Still sticky, but I expect it to look like that. And I'm not worried about it. But you see the difference. Machine sticky, no machine not. I like to time it because it just always works and the time seems to be correct. And what you're looking for is on the bench, what would you say, soft, plump, just sticky,
Morphing.
beautiful dough,
A little bit sticky.
a little bit elastic, and definitely all the ingredients very well combined. And here it's a bit different. It's a little bit more sticky, but it's still smooth. I'm going to give this another minute and then I'll be back. I might just do it here.
And you can see I've got no mixture on the bench. The flour helps to just pull it all up. There's no mixture on the bench at all because the dough keeps picking up anything that gets left behind.
Okay.
Beautiful. It's very cathartic. See, you can work out all your woes and work out all the problems of the
So
world.
on our website, we've got, is that too loud? On our website, we've got,
I think so.
okay, well, turn off. We've got the recipe on the website. Our website, if you don't know, is mondaymorningcookingclub.com.au. And we've got the recipe, we've got a full video of how to make it, and we've got a video of the platting. But this time we are doing it step by step, so you can follow along with us as we go. And you should be up to this stage of kneading.
Perfect.
How are you going?
I'm good. What time have we got?
Yeah, we're doing well.
Okay.
We're just about to wrap up. I just wish I could find that thing that I've lost. It would be much better. Oh, well, I have to stop looking for it.
This is such a nice project to do. Set aside a Friday, or I've got friends that do it every Friday. My friend Cara does it every Friday now. She makes 2 challahs and takes it wherever she's going or has it at home. And it's just fabulous to have that homemade challah. There's something special about a homemade challah compared to buying one in the
there
store.
really is. Okay, so I'm taking it off the dough hook, taking the dough hook off, I should say. Now, we have some conjecture about rising. You can just take this bowl and rise it like that. Some people like to take it out, oil the bowl and put it back in. What I like to do is get the dough scraper, which of course I can't find. So I'm going to use this instead. And I just like to push down the edges with a bit of flour. No, it's too big. Yeah, it's too big. Just push down the edges. I just sort of want to make a ball of dough in here, but I don't oil the sides. And I don't find it makes any difference. And I just sort of make a circle, and I don't think there's any need to do this.
Need.
I think it's just habit, actually. All right, so that's that. You can see how sticky this is. And we'll show you when we come back after the rise how it loses its stickiness.
And mine's still got a little bit of sticky every so often.
Yeah. Okay, so then we need...
She keeps using the word need. I think it's a faux pas, Freudian slip. Okay.
You know, if you're not a glad wrap person, plastic wrap person, some people are not, then skip the plastic wrap, but I think it just gives a nicer, humid environment in there for it to rise. So,
because it's airtight.
yeah. So I do plastic wrap like that, as tight as you can. There's your 10 minutes up. How are you feeling? Good. How's everyone feeling? Your 10 minutes is up. So you've either kneaded it in the bowl with the stand mixer and the dough hook for 5 minutes, or on the bench. So I've got Glad wrap on top.
Could I use my beeswax cover over the top?
Absolutely, here. This is where you need this to get it off the bench. Try this.
Maybe I can do it without. Oh, yes.
I feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, the dough is just beautiful and soft and plump.
Except my hands start to. And I can put that back in here now.
And if you want to be really pedantic, you can wash the bowl out and oil it. But as I said, I don't think it makes a difference. So just have a good look where it's up to, because I want you to see where it rises to. And then I put a tea towel, and I like these light linen ones for yeast work. Oh my gosh, another one. Someone brought these for me for a present, and just, I love them. They're my Challah tea towels.
And on a metal bowl, it's hard for the Glad wrap to stick, but just do it on it, like move it onto itself. Good night. Okay,
so that's it. We're going to put it in a warm place. If it's summer and the kitchen's warm, it can be anywhere in the kitchen. If it's winter and you've got, like, I've got a little cupboard here above the oven. When the oven's on, it's nice and warm. I put it in there.
Some people open their oven door and leave their oven on a very low temperature. Could you do that?
I don't think there's a need to.
It might cook it.
I think that if it's not as warm as you want it to be, then it'll just take a bit longer to rise, which isn't the end of the world.
And I've seen you use a blanket.
People use, like back in the day, like the My Aerobic sisters who gave us the cinnamon buns in the first book, their family, and historically they always used like a doona, like a duvet, and they would wrap their yeast dough in a duvet and then put it in the bed.
It's wrapped with such love, isn't it, when you put a doona on? I don't know if your linen's
a bit excessive, though.
Do you think your linen tea towel's done with love? I think so.
Yeah. So we're going to sign off now, unless you want to sit here for 2 hours and watch it rise with us, but I think not. I'm sure you've all got other things to do. We're going to come back in 2 hours and 20 minutes. Is that right? In 2 hours. We're going to come back at 12:30. And we're going to proceed then. So put your yeasted dough somewhere warm. Say farewell to Jax because she's not going to come back later. We've got Marilyn coming, who's the expert Monday morning cooking club grader and platter. And so we're signing off for now, and we'll see you back here at 12:30. That's Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which is in just under 2 hours.
Put your timers on.
Put your timers on.
Yeah.
See you
later. Bye.
See you. Done. And I'm going to click on it, Technical difficulties.